He was never afraid of his opponents. He was afraid of himself, of slipping, of being less than perfect. That fear, not courage, built the greatest welterweight who ever lived. In the next 5 minutes, a bullied kid, 2 heartbreaking losses, an obsession that consumed him, and a legacy that may never be touched. There is a version of this story where Georges St-Pierre retires undefeated. He was that good. But the 2 nights he lost, those nights made him into something else entirely. Saint-Isidore, Quebec. Population 1,200. Georges was small, quiet, different. Older boys beat him for his lunch money, regularly, systematically, for years. His father took him to a karate school, not to fight, to survive. At 7 years old, Georges St-Pierre began building the armor he would wear for the rest of his life. He was obsessive from the start. He didn't train to win. He trained to eliminate every possible way he could lose. Every gap, every flaw, every weakness, hunted down and destroyed. He arrived in the UFC in 2002, 21 years old, unranked, unknown. He finished Karo Parisyan's teammate in his debut, and the promotion noticed immediately. By 2004, he was fighting Matt Hughes for the welterweight title. Hughes was a 2-time champion, a wrestling monster. Georges was 23. He lost. Hughes armbarred him in the first round. Most fighters grieve a loss and move on. Georges could not move on. He replayed it, diagnosed it, mapped every second he was wrong. Losing wasn't just painful, it was unacceptable. He hired wrestling coaches, kickboxing specialists. He cross-trained at a level no welterweight had attempted. Then he walked back into the cage and dismantled every opponent in his path. November 2006, GSP versus Matt Hughes, rematch. He dropped Hughes with a head kick and finished him on the ground. The welterweight title was his. Quebec erupted. He was champion, unbeatable. The next fight was supposed to be a formality. His opponent was a club fighter from New York with a 5-1 underdog line. You already know what happened. April 7, 2007, Matt Serra landed a right hand, then another. Georges went to the canvas. The referee waved it off. The greatest welterweight in the world had just been knocked out by a tough winner. What came next was not anger, it was collapse. Georges St-Pierre, years later, admitted he developed full-blown panic attacks, OCD symptoms, an almost paralyzing fear of competition. The perfectionist had cracked. He spoke about it publicly only years later. Compulsive checking, rituals before fights, the need to control every variable because losing control was unbearable. He fought the UFC's best while fighting himself every single day. But he rebuilt, again. He hired a sports psychologist. He added acrobatics and parkour to his training. He became the first welterweight to seriously use wrestling as a complete offensive system, not just a defensive tool. April 2008, Serra GSP 2. Georges dismantled Serra methodically, surgically, no emotion, no rage, just flawless execution. He won the title back in 2 rounds, and then the dynasty began. UFC 83 was held in Montreal. 18,000 fans, his city, his country. When he walked out, the arena shook. Canada had a hero, and he had something to prove to himself that no crowd could ever fully understand. What followed was historic. Fitch, Alves, Hardy, Koshek, Shields, Condit, Diaz. He outworked them all, outthought them all. He didn't just defeat opponents, he solved them, like equations. He studied opponents for months. He told Josh Koshek, before their rematch, exactly which punch he would land and when. He was right. That is not confidence. That is something closer to obsession. Behind every perfect performance was a man who could not sleep before fights, who checked locks, checked equipment, checked everything. Twice, 3 times, 4. The champion the world saw was the armored version. The real Georges was still afraid. December 2013 press conference. He vacated the title. No injury, no defeat, no scandal. He simply walked away from the thing he had sacrificed everything to build. The world didn't understand. He spoke about a darkness, about losing himself, about a sport that had given him identity but at enormous cost. He said he needed to find out who he was without the cage. That took 4 years. He came back in 2017, not at welterweight. He came back at middleweight, a division he had never fought in professionally, to fight the reigning champion, a trash-talking Englishman named Michael Bisping. Madison Square Garden, November 2017, GSP choked Bisping unconscious in the third round. At 36 years old, after 4 years away, Georges St-Pierre was a two-division UFC champion. History. He had proved something to himself that no one else required of him. He wasn't chasing glory. He wasn't chasing money. He was still, after 36 years of life, running from the fear of being less than perfect. Discipline is a gift until it becomes a prison. He controlled his diet, his sleep, his training, his team, his public image with an iron grip. Nothing was left to chance, and nothing ever was enough. 13 welterweight title defenses, the longest reign in division history, a perfect 47-second average control time per round, 2 division titles, 13 years of active competition without a single blemish that wasn't eventually avenged. Somewhere in Saint-Isidore, there's still a version of Georges who is 7 years old and handing over his lunch money. He never fully left that kid behind. The training, the obsession, the perfection, it was always armor. Always. He was never the most powerful, never the most naturally gifted. He was the most relentless, the most honest about his own fear, and perhaps the most human champion the sport has ever produced. He once said, "I don't want to be the best fighter in the world. I want to be the best version of myself." The tragedy is, he could never quite decide if those were the same thing. The 10 count is not always for the man on the canvas. Sometimes it tolls for the version of yourself you had to destroy to become who you needed to be. Georges St-Pierre paid that price every single day.